Welcome to Full Moon Film Buff, episode 29. We're going to talk about The Fury of the Wolfman from 1972, originally titled La Furia del Hombre Lobo. You can stream this on YouTube, but the image quality is not good there. So I bit the bullet and signed up for a week trial at FlickFling. I had not seen this before. First, let's talk about the prominent crew and cast. The film was directed by Jose Maria Zabalza, written by Paul Naschy, credited as Jacinto Molina Alvarez, with effects makeup by Carlos Paradella. The cast includes Paul Naschy as Waldemar Daninsky, aka the Wolfman, Perla Crystal as Dr. Elona Elman, aka Eva Wolfstein, Miguel de la Riva as Detective Wilhelm Kaufman, billed as Michael Rivers, Mark Stevens as Bill Williams, Veronica Lujan as Karen, Pilar Zarilla as Erica Daninsky, billed as Diane, Jose Marco as Meryl, Francisco Amoros as Helmut Wolfstein, Javier de Rivera as the detective, Ramon Lillo as Frederick, and Fabian Conde as man at the castle. Thank goodness Paul Naschy is back. This film is a little bonkers, but in a good way. The villain is just unhinged crazy. We break a little new ground in werewolf lore. It's a hard film to track down, but I think it's worth it. As an interesting tidbit, due to weird paperwork issues I do not fully understand, the English dubbed version is in the public domain, while the original Spanish language version is not. I don't know why. Now let's discuss the synopsis. College professor Waldemar Daninsky returns home from Tibet as the sole survivor of an academic expedition. Waldemar was attacked and bitten by a yeti, which a Tibetan monk tells him means he's under the curse of the pentagram, even though the mark on his chest is just a pentagon. A sexy female mad scientist, Dr. Elona Elman, announces to her class that she has learned how to control human minds with focused waves. Waldemar arranges to meet Elona later. Waldemar also brought a strange illness home with him. Grad student Karen is nervous about Elona's work, even though Dr. Elman is her mentor. Waldemar gets an anonymous note revealing his wife is having an affair with one of his students. The student tampers with Waldemar's brakes to get rid of him. Waldemar survives the resulting car crash and flees the scene. Elona and Karen are also roommates. Elona knew Waldemar's wife was cheating. Elona says she can cure Waldemar of his mysterious ailment. Meanwhile, a storm knocks the power out at the Waldemar home. Waldemar confronts his wife. Under the full moon, he turns into a werewolf and kills her and her boyfriend. He runs into the dark and stormy night and gets electrocuted by a downed power line. Based on the tampered with car and now accidental electrocution, the cops suspect foul play. It turns out Waldemar gave Elona information on his lycanthropic condition. Elona has Waldemar exhumed since she knows he is not truly dead. Elona uses hypnotic mind control on Waldemar. Karen's boyfriend doesn't want her taking a trip with Elona. Turns out they are taking Waldemar's unconscious body to her creepy castle lab for science. Elona has a trio of sexy lab assistants there to help. Now that Waldemar's body has gone missing, both the police and a reporter, who happens to be Karen's boyfriend, start looking even deeper. One of Elona's assistants starts doubting all this creepy stuff is actually science. She pays for her doubts with her life. Karen runs across weird mutants in the castle. Elona believes she can cure them. Karen starts to doubt as well. She should! There are a lot of mutants in the dungeon. Elona has Waldemar chained up. She wears a sexy dress and mentally triggers his lycanthropic transformation before lashing him with a whip that she just happens to have lying around her lab. Waldemar escapes, jumps out of a window, and runs into the night. He kills a nice young man doing his homework and then attacks another young lady preparing to go to bed. The cops start tracking werewolf Waldemar with canine units. Waldemar viciously kills a farmer and his wife. A serious rampage is underway. Elona puts Karen in charge while she leaves to get more supplies for her experiments. Elona explains her ultimate goal is to destroy all emotions. Waldemar staggers back to the castle after losing the cops by crossing a river. Karen confesses what's going on to Waldemar, and the pair plan to escape. Karen and Waldemar free the mutants, who go on a rampage through the castle. Waldemar and Karen learn Elona is building on the work of Dr. Helmut Wolfstein, who turns out to be her father. Elman is a fake name. Oh, and Elona is an old, jealous lover of Waldemar's. She used her mind control powers to make Waldemar's wife fall in love and cheat on Waldemar. She planned to hypnotize Voldemort to kill his wife and then himself as punishment for not choosing her. She also keeps her father prisoner in the dungeon. Cops and the reporter put the puzzle together. Voldemort and Karen can't find a way out of the castle, so they hook up. It turns out the supplies Elona is after is the dead body of Voldemort's murdered wife, who also becomes a werewolf because she was fatally bitten by Daninsky. And she forces the two werewolves to fight. Voldemort kills his wife a second time, then kills Elona by biting her and throwing her off a stair landing. A dying Elona, a woman who loves him enough to end his torment, shoots and kills Voldemort. Karen and her boyfriend walk off into a new day. First, let's talk about the transformations. We get two transformations here, and they're pretty standard dissolves, with one very notable difference. Both are shot in extreme close-up. We get a great look at the makeup job, and it's incredibly impressive. There's no latex appliances to change the face shape, just hair, but very well-placed hair. Beautiful work. I was really impressed with both jobs. Now, I know that this film doesn't actually have the first female werewolf. Depending on how we want to define what the first female werewolf is, it's either the Indian maiden from The Werewolf in 1913, Irina from Cat People, Celeste from Cry of the Werewolf, or the woman from The Castle of the Monsters. But two of those turn into true wolves, not hybrid werewolves. And two of those I couldn't see, and the other one turns into a panther. This is the first transformation of a female into a hybrid werewolf that I've seen as part of this project. It's an impressive makeup job, just as good as the one we see on Paul Naschy. Certainly they use a lighter color of hair, and certainly they do a slightly lighter density of the hair. She's not quite as hairy as Paul is, but her entire face, her décolletage and exposed arms are all covered. I wish I could have found a way to see The Castle of the Monsters, because I understand that is the first true hybrid werewolf female that we see on screen. I wasn't able to. So this is the first one that I've seen as part of the project, and it's fantastic. It's really, really good. Congratulations to the team behind it. So the thing I want to talk about most is, does Elona love Voldemort? I was really surprised when Elona turned out to be the one to kill Daninsky. I fully expected Karen to be the one that fulfills that role. It's the more traditional route, right? The ingenue falls in love with the tragic hero. We have seen that relationship before in the first El Hombre Lobo movie, in the older Universal werewolf movies. To have the vamp, the sexual older woman, reveal her suppressed feelings and discover that those feelings have been the prime motivation for the vamp's entire villainous plan was a really pleasant surprise. But I gotta ask, does Elona actually love Voldemort? I mean, or was she just infatuated with him? Without getting sappy about it, you want good things to happen to the people that you love, right? You don't want them to be cheated on. You don't want to set them up to be cheated on. You don't want to encourage them to lash out violently. You don't want to whip them without their consent in a safe word, of course. And you don't want to torture them because they didn't choose you. To quote the musician Sting, if you love somebody, set them free. Instead, Elona absolutely embodies another song written by Sting, the possessive and controlling Every Breath You Take. Now, Elona is the best part of this movie. The actress, from the very first time we see her, is playing Elona with crazy eyes and intense energy. We know she's the villain, even if we don't know what she's up to yet. Karen knows that she's up to no good. Karen's boyfriend knows. Somehow, Voldemort doesn't know, even though he's the reason that she's crazy in the first place, right? Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, right? She is an over-the-top, jilted woman. Voldemort dumped her, and it hurt her so badly that she has dedicated her entire life to dominating him, destroying him, and making him suffer for not choosing her. And she's found a way to control all human emotion as a means to prevent anyone, anywhere from ever experiencing the kind of rejection she felt. That is hardcore. Does this make Elona, therefore, a more relatable villain? Sure. I mean, I understand where she's coming from. Her actions are understandable, even if they're not reasonable or good. But does it make her a better villain? Maybe. I mean, there are times when I like a really good, relatable villain. It helps the story feel more grounded. But does a story about a guy who got bit by a Yeti who turns into a werewolf really need to feel all that grounded? Probably not. It just has to be understandable. That said, I really did like Elona. I just thought we could have just gone a traditional route and just a mad scientist, and have this extra step of making her a little bit more relatable was an interesting and valuable addition. The only part about this movie I really didn't like was the mutants. Um, the mutants made me uncomfortable. Unfortunately, this is a pretty common trope of horror movies where physical disability is associated with subhumanity. It's a little, I don't know, primitive. It makes me feel bad. It didn't even really add anything to the movie. They were just there to be creepy, and that's kind of gross. That people with disabilities are inherently creepy. I wish it hadn't been here. So if you like lycanthropes, like, share, and subscribe. Next, I am very excited to discuss Santo and Blue Demon Against the Monsters. This is from 1970. Of course, I had heard of lucha libre and luchador cinema for a long time, but I'd never even dipped my toe into this genre, and I'm very excited to now have a reason to try it out. The little research I have done so far indicates that Santo and Blue Demon are both big deals in luchador history, so that makes me excited. Keep your eye on the moon, a silver bolt in the chamber, and we have a lot to talk about next episode. We'll see you back.